Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Mystic Temple Spirituality for a New Age. I'm Monica Bey, also known as the Divine Mother, and I am here to bring you truth. And the truth today is going to be a hard one for some of you. Okay, today we are going to dive deeper. So, in the last Divinity Session, so welcome everyone. Happy Sunday, by the way. But in the last Divinity Session, we touched upon the concept of God and being this person, this thing you should fear, that this thing that is this entity or person that is over you and judging you and so on and so forth. Well, the cosmic collective consciousness was like, you can't give the people a little bit of the truth and then and then leave them hanging. So today we're going to focus on simply, we're going to just take one piece of what we talked about last time. We talked about a lot of things in the last divinity session due to uh, the last passage from the Book of Rasheeda. Today we're going to dive deeper into the concept of God. I'm going to explain to you guys what's really going on with God, but not just God itself, but deities, right? There's the monotheistic side and there's a polytheistic side. And we're going to talk about all of that. And I'm going to break it down to you and let you guys know what's really going on because that's what we do here at Mystic Temple. We share truth. So I will preface this by saying, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear and what the truth actually is. So there is a class that I taught, or a series that I taught, that I'm still teaching actually at Mystic University and mysticuniversity.net plug. But in that series, the first class in that series, so in that series, I'm going through different gods and goddesses and stuff like that from different traditions and explaining different things and how to work with them and stuff like that. So in the very, very first class, I explained to people um, that gods are created. Okay, I explained that to people, and there were many people that, because at Mystic University, it's a community. It's not just a university. It's not just me talking at people. It's a community. People share their thoughts, their opinions, everything, right? So there were people that were actually dismayed at the reality, right? I'm going to get into all of that. So I want to explain to you also, before we start getting into the details, that this is actually should be this truth should be a source of empowerment, not dismay. Okay, and some of you who are definitely some of you who are new may come out of this session like completely discombobulated in your reality, in what you thought was true about the different gods and goddesses that you work with and stuff like that. But again, like I said, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear, and truth sets you free. So understand that. Now, I also want to preface this by saying, in the last session, when I said that, I said, I forgot exactly what I said, but something to the effect of that, you know, people are wondering why God is not saving them and so on and so forth. And I said, because there is no God. So I want to clarify, because that statement by itself, and I know I went on to explain a lot, but just, some people have selective hearing. So just that statement by itself may lead people to the conclusion or the assumption that we are atheists, and that's not what this is. So I want to explain that atheism, and I used to be atheist, so I used to be a lot of things, okay? But I've had a whole entire spiritual journey my whole entire life, and one of those things that I used to be was atheist. And we are not atheists, okay? Atheism, and there's many different forms of atheism. So I'm not painting all atheists with a broad brush, but generally, atheism does not believe in anything that is not physical and concrete. So they don't believe in divinity. They don't believe, definitely don't believe in gods, goddesses, and stuff like that. They don't believe in divinity. They don't believe in past lives. And as you've looked at, if you've been to mystictemple.org and you have read our doctrine, which is just a loose set of beliefs, then you know that we believe in all those things, right? Not necessarily well, we're going to talk about the whole God aspect now. So I'm going to break it all down so that you understand. So Mystic Temple is not a religion, right? It is not a religion at all. It is not an organized religion for sure. And it is simply truth, and truth and spirituality, and bringing you back to yourself, okay? Bringing you back to your own divinity. So by definition of that, and because divinity is in there, and we believe in past lives and stuff like that, this is not atheism. But when we say that God doesn't exist in terms of that version of God that we're taught to believe in, that is judging us and pointing at us and punishing us or saving us, that doesn't actually exist. That's not something that is inherent, right? So when I say that we created gods, this is going to be the part that's going to for some of you going to be like a smack in the face, but but bear with me, deal with it. All right. So when I say we created God, one thing you need to understand is that there are things called God forms. Okay, so I'm going to break all of that down. But actually, before I break that down, sorry, before I break down the concept of God forms, so you can understand our process of creation, I want to backtrack to a few divinity sessions, a few different passages from the Book of Rasheeda that really goes into this, and then I'm going to dive deeper. All right, so if we can pull up the first passage. This passage was the very first passage in the Book of Rasheeda, and I'm just going to read a part of it. So it's talking about energy flowing like a river flowing through all consciousness. And then it says, it is that which we live and turn by. It is that it is all that ever was, is, and ever will be. Some call it God, some call it Allah, some call it source energy, some call it universal energy. It is that which connects us and separates us, playing upon the opposites of this world, but still going beyond. It is the force of many names, and I have come to give it another. And guess what that other is? That other name is you. That is your divinity. And so this first passage is the very first passage of the Book of Rasheeda, written in 2015. And in Divinity Session number 1, I broke it down. So go back if you want to see the full breakdown of that full passage. But that is really talking about the fact that it is literally the same. Let's look at the next passage that I wanted to go through today. And this is another passage that was written in 2020 and explained in Divinity Session 39. If you ask anyone of faith, they will tell you that they know their God is real. This is true. If you ask a Muslim, he will say, I know Allah is real. That's a typo there. I know Allah is real because I have felt his presence. A Christian will say, I know that Jesus is real because I have felt his presence. A Hindu will say, I will tell you, I know that Shiva is real because I have felt his presence. And this is because they're all real. These are all merely aspects of a vast source of energy that knows no name. So going back to the previous patches that we just talked about, all these different names that we give this divine force. But again, that divine force is running through you. And why are they all real? We're going to get into that because we created them. Just because we create something doesn't make it any less real. Okay, but what's not real, and I'm going to get into the creation process so you guys can understand how that happens, even from a physics standpoint. But just because we create something doesn't make it any less real. But what's not real is its authority over us. What's not real is its judgment of us. What's not real is our subservienceness, our subservience of it. That's not real. Those are things that are also created, but put us further away from ourselves. And what's also not real is that it's separate from us. That's also what's not real. But just because I'm looking at you through a camera right now, okay? Humans made this camera. Does it make the camera any less real? No, it doesn't. Because this is our power of creation. We are so powerful, we can create things that are very tangible, very real in this illusionary reality that we're living in. Do these things exist outside of this illusionary reality? No, they don't. But in our human experience, our experience is through this illusionary reality. And therefore, the things that we create are real to us and to our experience. They're perceptually real and they're actually tangibly real as well. So when we're talking about God and we're talking about deities, I want you to understand that things are not black and white. And so when I say that something doesn't exist, yet it does, just like we are everything and nothing at the same time, it's not, things are not black and white. Okay, so is there inherently a God before we created any? No. No, absolutely not. And unless we're referring to ourselves. Okay? No. But do humans create things over time that then become powerful? Absolutely. So let's get into that creation process. So there's a thing called a God form. And for some of you who are into metaphysics and this side of things, you already know this term. Some of you may not know this term, but things start as I'm going to break it down. I don't want to give a full metaphysical lesson today because then we're going to get off track. But I'm going to break it down to a servitor first. So for some of you will know what a servitor is, but a servitor is something that we can create. So um, sorry, I'm not going to get into servitors. I'm just going to sorry guys. This is live. This is what happens. All right, so we're gonna we're gonna get into we're gonna just go to God forms, not intentionally created. Okay, so when you create if I'm gonna just use an example, I can come up right now. I could create a God named Ooga Booga. I like using that. I could create a God named Ooga Booga right now. If I get enough people in the world to believe in that God, I can give that God attributes. I can create stories behind how that God came about. I can create all kinds of stuff, right? I can create a whole entire story, a whole entire world, and say this God had a brother and sister that did this, and I can create a whole entire story behind it, and then say these are the attributes. This God is vengeful. This God is merciful. Whatever, right? The God's name is Ooga Booga. So if I get everyone to believe, or just even a small group of people to start believing in this God, Ooga Booga, now it becomes powerful. Why? Because the attention of consciousness, the collective attention of consciousness is creation. Okay? I gotta bring this out. Message. Okay? The the conscious attention and intention towards something is creation. This is how we're able to manifest our lives. This is how we're able to manifest our reality. We're also able to manifest God's. So in this fictional example where I create this God named Ooga Booga, right? If I get enough people to believe in it, it becomes powerful. Then what happens? They begin to feel its presence. Why? Because it becomes real. You feel the presence of something when energetically the energy begins to condense. It begins to um, harden. It begins to become more material, not fully material like it's like this table here or this camera here, not fully physical and tangible like that, but feeling tangible. Just like when you if someone walks behind you and you don't hear them, maybe you have headphones on, you don't hear them, but you feel their presence. They don't touch you, nothing. You feel their presence. It's an energy presence because we are physical beings and we are condensed energy. But when people create gods and goddesses and deities, the more people pay attention to it, the more energy people give to it, the more tangible it becomes. And then you begin to feel its presence. That's why, let's bring that passage back up about the feeling of the presence. That's why the passage of the Book of Rasheeda states that. It states, drum roll, we're going to look at that again. No, the other one about feeling its presence. About, yes. No, the other one, sorry. Nope, the other one from 2020. Okay, yes, I'm sorry. Go, yes, thank you. So a Christian will say they know Jesus is real because they have felt his presence. Allah, Muslims will say they know that Allah is real because they have felt its presence. Hindus will say, I know that Shiva is real because I have felt his presence. So we tend to connect dots that don't need to be connected. So, yes, it's real, but that doesn't mean that everything else about that God and goddess is real. So, for instance, just because a Christian feels Jesus doesn't mean that all the different things that they say about Jesus are also true. that doesn't mean that all of Christianity is also true. just because you can feel the presence of Jesus. Understand that Jesus was also created. Jesus was created. So was Shiva. So were the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses. So were all of the deities. They were created. That doesn't make them any less real. I'm going to give you guys an example. And this is funny and shocking at the same time because so in some of you know my story. In 2012, I had this massive awakening. I all of a sudden became a channel. I've always been a natural medium. I've always been a necromancer. I've always just naturally. I've always been a natural psychic. I've always been a natural healer. But I was not a channel as of yet. And then in 2012, I became a channel, and and I just started receiving a bunch of things, and I started having visions, and I just started things would start taking over my body and things like that. So one of this was very jarring for me. So I'm gonna tell this story. One time I was sitting on my bed, and all of a sudden, so what would happen is I would just go into a trance, and then I would come out of it like, what the hell? So I go all of a sudden I go into the trance, and who's there? Jesus. And I literally said, and some of you who know this will laugh because some of you who know me well will laugh because you know this already. But I as soon as I saw Jesus, I literally said, "What are you doing here? I don't even believe in you." And he ignored me and then continued to to show me what he was there to show me in the vision. So in the vision, he showed me, he was literally communicating with me telepathically and showing me my power, showing me that I was a healer. I knew that I had healing ability, but I didn't fully understand it yet. And he was showing me, he showed me my future of healing people, which I've done so many miracles at this point. He showed me doing all that, and he had like fire coming out of his hands, and he was just showing me. And then I came out of it, and he had me repeating something coming out of it. I forgot what I repeated, when like literally I was just repeating something as I came out of that trance. But anyway, I immediately wrote it all down, and I took it. I was like, well, I don't know what he was doing there, but whatever. and then, and I wrote it all down. I wrote it all down. But then guess who also came to me? Isis, the ancient Egyptian goddess, also came to me and showed me my future. She showed me how she showed me about Mystic Temple. She showed me what was going to happen. She came to me many, many, many times. And many other deities, also Metatron. Metatron is the one who well, partially gave me the prophecy in 2023. So I say all this to say these entities are real, but that doesn't mean we need to connect. Just because A is real doesn't mean that everything surrounding A is real. Know that the stories, like I said in my example of creating a god named Ooga Booga, right? The stories I can create around that are not real, but what ends up being real, and the stories are also just there to help people believe, because the more you believe, the more intention you also put towards the deity, and then the deity becomes stronger. So that is what's considered a god form, but the stories around that are not real. And therefore when I say that there's no god in that respect, that is doing all those things, that's not real. The entity that you, whoever you connect to, right? And I'm also want to be clear, and I have a lot going on right now in my head without, I'm channeling at the same time, and there's just a lot of knowledge in my head too. So bear with me if I jump around a little bit. But I also want to make it clear that that doesn't mean, just because I'm saying that we made these gods up. Again, I said that it doesn't make them any less real. That doesn't mean that you can't work with a deity that you like to work with. Okay, that doesn't mean that you can't do that. But it's important that you do that without idolization, without putting that deity outside of yourself, in control of you, praying to idolization, worshiping. Okay, that's when you start to get outside of the truth. That's when you start to lose your own power. That's when you start to focus away from your divinity and towards something else. Understand that our creations are also divine. So when we create these divine beings, this is our power. This is how powerful we are. Our consciousness and our collective consciousness is so powerful. And I'm going to go back to I'm going to go back to what I almost said, what I almost said about servitors. Excuse me. I'm going to go back to what I almost said about servitors, and we're going to go there. So, servitors, for those of you who don't know, are entities that we ourselves can create. And I teach this at Mystic University. So, mysticuniversity.net, go there. But you can create your own entities, and it's actually very easy. And the more you connect with that entity, the stronger it becomes, and then you begin to feel its presence, right? That is a servitor. It's not yet a God form. A servitor can also become a God form. A servitor, when it becomes strong enough, and then especially when there's collective energy, one person can turn a servitor into a God form, but usually it's a lot more powerful if the collective turns it into a God form. So again, if you have a servitor, and I could create Ooga Booga and start it as a servitor, and only I believe in Ooga Booga. Now I talk to other people and get them to believe in Ooga Booga. And now everybody's believing in Ooga Booga. And they're like, yes, okay. And then especially if they give Ooga Booga their power. Okay. How do you give an entity your power? You take it away from yourself. That's how you give it your power. Message. Okay. That's how you give an entity your power, is you take it away from yourself by saying, this is above me. This is controlling everything. I'm leaving everything to this, so on and so forth. You give it your power. And when people do that collectively, it becomes a very, very powerful deity. And people will believe in it because they feel its presence, because we believe in things we can see, touch, and feel. We believe when things happen synchronistically as well. But again, what we're not understanding, what you're not understanding, what some people don't understand, is that everything is us. All of that is us, and that is how divine we are. Our creations are also divine. So when I say working with a deity versus worshiping a deity, so on and so forth, and Dominic, Light Guardian Dominic, touched upon this in his LG talk a few weeks ago as well, which is something I've also taught firmly within Mystic Temple and Mystic University, is that you're supposed to work alongside. Okay, meaning that if I'm working with say I want to work with Ra, the sun god for ancient Egyptian theism. So if I want to work with Ra, the sun god, because I just resonate with that vibration, that energy, I can work alongside Ra, but I'm not putting Ra above me. I'm not saying, Ra, please, please, you know, I'm not worshiping. Okay. I don't do that. I don't do that. Nor have I ever done that. Okay. I don't wish any parent the type of child that I was. Okay. Because I, I didn't even put my parents above me. Okay. I like literally inherently my entire life always knew that I was divine without being able to say those words and understanding what that was. I always knew that there's literally nothing above me. Okay. Not that I'm above everything, but there's nothing above me. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. You have to understand that there is nothing above you. And so when you work alongside deities, and some people are going to be like, oh my God, because again, if you are brought up or currently in a uh, even in the like metaphysical world and other subsets of spirituality, understand that if you have to initiate into something, if you have to um, if you have to pray or worship something in whatever you're doing, you are in an organized religion. I want you to understand that you are in an organized religion. People think organized religion is just the major religions: Christianity, Judaism, Islam. No. Guess what? Voodoo is also an organized religion. Ifa is an organized religion. Okay, Wicca is, well, that's technically officially an organized religion and recognized as an organized religion. And I used to be all of it. Okay, like I told you guys, I used to be everything. So for those of you who don't know my story, I was born, I was raised Muslim in the first part of my life until I was probably about 6 years old, maybe. I could have the numbers wrong, but early in my life, right? Both my parents were Muslim. And then my parents got divorced. My father was still Muslim. My mother, we had no religion in the house for a while. And then my mother became Christian. My sister became Christian. I literally have half my family is Christian, half my family is Muslim. I have a Muslim father, Christian mother, Muslim sister, Christian sister. And then there's me. because I've always been the rebel. And so I've always been a free thinker. And so as I was going on my journey through spiritual, I call it a spiritual crusade that I went on, just a crusade for knowledge, right? I did that at the age of 14 and on, and I was many things. I was I was never Christian because that just never resonated with me at all. But I was Buddhist at one point. I was Wiccan at one point. I practiced voodoo at one point. I I did. I mean, there's so many things I can't even think of that I can't even remember. But and I was also, like I said, I was atheist at one point. And then with the atheism, I realized like, no, I'm actually not atheist because I believe in more than what I can see. And again, I know I'm painting all atheists with a broad brush, and I don't mean to do that. I know there's different types of atheism, but what I'm saying is I knew that I was incorrectly labeling myself as atheist because I chose atheism at the time because I was really like, I don't believe in any of this shit. So I must be atheist. But I realized like, no, I'm a necromancer. I talk to spirits. I see spirits. I'm a medium. I know I have gifts and abilities. So what the atheism, no, that's not what I am at all because I believe in these things. And so that's when I started to come to my own divinity and start to come to my own spirituality and away from all of the dogma. And so it's important that you understand you don't have to initiate into any form of religion. If again, like I'm going to say this straight because I know, and I know it's unpopular for some of you who have initiated into things. If you had to initiate into something, or someone had to give you powers, right, or give you permission to connect with this deity or whatever, you're in an organized religion, okay, and it's false. Just so you know, just letting you know. I'm just letting you know. Don't shoot the messenger, okay? I'm just letting you know you're in a religion and it's false. Now that doesn't mean that the deities that you're working with and you may be worshiping, which I'm telling you not to do, but that doesn't mean those deities are any less real. That just means that all the fluff around it. See, this is what humans do. Humans take the information and then they put stuff around it. Okay, they take the truth, which the truth is divinity itself, and this is where all religions begin. At the very beginning is just divinity itself. Then they create a god, then they create this, then they create that, then they create a story behind it, then all this other stuff, right? None of those stories are real. None of those attributes are real. Energy is energy, divinity is divinity. It's how we color that divinity that changes its vibration and frequency. And so if we create a God form that we believe is vengeful, guess what? That entity is going to give us vengeful energy until we turn it into something else. So I'm going to explain some of that. If you look at the history, and this is one of the things that I did when I was on my religious crusade for knowledge a long time ago in my teens, is I studied all religions, well, all of them that I could access at the time anyway. I studied tons of religions, right? And then I went and looked at, okay, how did this become this and this become this? Because here's the thing, what I just said, you can turn that vibration into something else. I'm going to use Isis as an example. Isis, the ancient Egyptian goddess of magic and really of everything, but she is the basis from Mary and Jesus. Isis and Horus is Mary and Jesus. Okay? If you don't believe me, look it up. Isis and Horus is Mary and Jesus. And this is uh the I guess the transformational history and lineage of gods and goddesses. And the Greeks took a lot of the ancient gods and goddesses. Actually, Isis's original name was Osset, and Isis, the name that we know now today, is what the Greeks renamed her. They took the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses and then renamed them, gave them different faces, and turned them into their gods and goddesses. And so, what happens when you do that? You take a deity that was really created by humans, like we know, that it was a God form. You took that and now you assign different attributes. The more you take that energy over here and give it new attributes and your own attributes and so on and so forth, now that version of that entity becomes something new. It becomes something new. And so now you have the Isis version over here, and you have the different Greek Isis over here. And then you have Mary over here, which is very different from the original, which is very different from the original Isis, right? And you have Horus over here, which is very different from Jesus. They both still exist as long as there are people to still feed that energy. So, so I want to make sure everyone is understanding this, because I know this is deep and this is layered and layered and layered with a lot of different intricacies. Like I said, nothing is black and white. And so I want you to, if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. This is a great that we're live, so I can answer any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions at all that you have on this topic, because it's important that you guys understand this. And the reason why the Cosmic Collective Consciousness wanted me to do a separate one just on this topic is to make sure that you guys have a full understanding of this. So we're not mincing words. We're not confusing things like, oh, because I say you shouldn't worship and you shouldn't pray to anything, that doesn't mean you can't work alongside with. Okay. But no, you should not be. That's where the line is drawn. You should not be worshiping, because when you worship, when you idolize, and when you pray to something outside of yourself, you're taking the power away from you and you're giving it to that thing, right? And the whole purpose of Mystic Temple is to bring you back to the remembrance of you. Part of that remembrance is remembering your divinity, okay? Remembering who you actually are, and also remembering that everything is you, and all of the creations that exist here within this illusionary reality were created by us. And all of these creations, because we are divine, so are they. Everything that we create is a different aspect of divinity. Can you bring back the very first passage that we had in the Book of Rasheeda, the very first one? Next page, please. Yes. So yes. So it says it is wait, playing upon. No, that's not. Next one. Sorry. I think it was that one. Yes, and this is, I want to read this because this is also, again, this is the very first passage of the Book of Rasheeda, written in 2015. And this is a very important passage to really understand what we're here for, right? Some seek to change you or to enroll you. Again, enrolling you in some kind of dogma, some kind of organized religion, telling you what you can and cannot do, and so on and so forth, in terms of restriction, restriction, restriction. I have come to ignite the true essence of you, devoid of the propensity for disharmony, to free your souls and allow the connection to the light which has been forgotten. This connection still remains broken. Still remains unbroken yet chained. And so that's really what this is all about. That's really what this is all about. Bringing you back to that light within, bringing you back to your divinity, bringing you back to the understanding that everything that you create is divine, and there are different aspects of the divine. And I still didn't find that that one. There was a passage in there that said something about different aspects of the divine. So if you can find that and just put that up. But anyway, it's different aspects of the divine. That same, everything is divine energy. And it's just, again, how you color that energy, how you program that energy. And how you program it is through your own perception, through your beliefs. So one thing that I received a while ago was that belief does not, what is it? Is it? Oh man, I forgot. Okay, maybe I'm not supposed to say that right now. It'll come back later. so, so I hope you guys are really understanding all of what is being explained today, because this is very, very important for you guys to understand. And I'm just going to check my notes here because I had a lot of things I wanted to make sure. Okay, so when we're working with deities, okay, when we're working with deities, it's important to understand they're powerful, but so are we. And so that's why we work alongside. We don't work under. We don't pray to. We don't worship. Right. So when that doesn't mean you can't have an altar and so on and so forth. An altar is giving respect. There's a difference between worship and respect and camaraderie. Okay, it's really more so camaraderie. And understanding that this energy exists. And I will tell you guys right now, I work with deities. Okay, I work with some deities. I work with them less now that I understand this. To be honest, I work with them less, but I still do work with some deities. And like I told you guys, deities have come to me, whether I like it or not. Okay, they've come to me, certain ones, and a lot of them. And I've channeled and they speak through me and stuff like that. But so I do work with some, okay, but I work alongside them, and it's more so like a coworker versus they're not my boss, okay. And I understand my place as a divine, as a equally divine being. In fact, I'm the one who created, not me personally, maybe, but as a human being and a part of this collective consciousness, we are in charge, or we are responsible for that creation. So at the end of the day, I'm definitely not below it. From far from that. Okay, so it's more like a coworker, and it's all divine energy. And why work with a deity? Because they already have collective power. There's a difference. If you guys have not experienced the power of collective power versus singular power, it's very, very different. It's a very different vibration. It's more of a condensed energy. And a lot of times, depending on how long, like I like to work with more ancient deities, because the longer they've been here, the longer people have been feeding them energy and power, the stronger they are, and the more effect they have on this physical reality. So I personally like to work with really, really ancient ones. But but that's why it's a tool. I see it as a tool. Okay, it's a tool, and it's not that. Again, it's not that it's more powerful than me, because I can do the same thing. But just like we use tools, why are you going to build a table with your bare hands instead of using a drill? Right? You want to get it done faster. You want to you want to make it easy, right? So you can do more things. So it's really a tool. I want you to understand that everything that we use spiritually is a tool. Okay, everything is a tool. And but nothing is in charge of us, nothing is in control of us, nothing is above us. Everything is divine. All of our creations are divine. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? I don't see any questions come through yet. So assuming that everyone got everything and understands everything that I'm saying. Okay, and in the next divinity session, we're going to talk even more about what that last passage was. Oh, wait, we do have a question. Okay, so New York Ristia. Hey, girl. Or boy, I'm not sure. But it says, so is it less about who created living beings, us in prayer, and more about discovering the power within self? Absolutely. 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 It is about discovering the power in yourself, but in that discovery, it's important to understand this stuff, because we get very, very confused. Humans get very confused because of what's been built around us and what's been built for us. We get very, very confused at where our place is. And so that's why I'm explaining where our place is and what these things that we really feel, that whatever you're working with, you may feel that energy. And again, it's because it's real. But it's important to understand our powers as creators, and also that everything is within us and that we have the power within us. And really, that is what Mystic Temple is all about, is all about. And another reason why this is important to understand in getting to the point of understanding the power within yourself, is that when you give the power to something outside of you, you take it away from yourself, and therefore you begin to go down a wayward path of 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 um, of a lack of remembrance. It takes you away from that remembrance. The remembrance is the power within, and we don't want to go away from that remembrance. We want to go toward that remembrance. And while we're still in this reality, and while we are still uh, dealing with the things that we have to deal with on an everyday basis, and dealing with all the things around us, we want to still be able to live our lives. We want to still be able to do the things that we like to do, but with that understanding. So hopefully that helps you. All right. Okay, so in the next divinity session, we're going to dive deeper also into the passage from last week. We're going to break that down because there were so many layers to that. And so I want to make sure you guys understand a lot of those things. But we really needed to have a session just on the concept of God and deities, so you really understand that today. But next time we will be doing more. So if you guys are new, please subscribe to this channel. If you are on YouTube, if you are on Instagram, please follow. If you are on Substack, please follow, subscribe, whatever that's called there. We just got on Substack, so we're working that out. But all right, so I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much. I'm back from vacation, and by the way, I got a mild sunburn, and I've been scratching like crazy. I said I was scratching like a crackhead. Listen, I have personality, so you just got to deal with it. But I've been scratching like crazy. But anyway, I just got back from El Salvador and I had a great time. But I am back. So starting tomorrow, we will be back doing the Channel Wisdom Circle every morning. And I want to say a big thank you for a big thank you for to Light Guardian Goddess Iman, who did a wonderful job last week holding it down for us, channeling, giving all the things that she needed to give. Okay, thank you so much, Iman, for taking over and doing that for me last week while I was on vacation. But I am back. So we are going to be back tomorrow doing all the things, doing all the channeling and everything. So I will see you tomorrow at 12:30. And I will say in the divine language, which essentially means peace be unto you, Zor Kumti, and I'll see you next time. Hold for the song.
Shards in the sink, no reflection. Crown crooked, heavy lies, no protection. Chiseled in the shadows, built my own direction. Never knew I was a sculptor of perfection. Veins pumping gold, they told me it's deception. Breath of storms, long spark, resurrection. Soul lit, the furnace blazing my connection. Forgotten gods rise now, the world's correction. They never told you you were a god. Stand in your God form, break through the facade. Thunder in your chest, every step is a nod. They never told you you were a god. Put up city lights, gleam like halos. Walk streets where the sins meet and chaos lays low. Pulse sinks with the beat, drums echo volcano. King in my veins, power in the payload. Scrolls never read, they bury my pages. Wisdom in the silence, lost in the ages. Fist full of stars, breaking the cages. Emerge from the dust, rewriting the stages.